Hi, I'm Don Breitfelder, and we're at 320 West Oakdale, which is a very famous mid-century building. And I happen to live here, and one of the things about real estate that you really want is a wow factor, and this building has a wow factor. And I've been here for almost 17 years, and every single day I get the wow factor based upon the marvelous light. And this morning we're going to talk with three owners that are here, including Audrey Schwartz, the widow of Milton Schwartz, who built the building. And the building is sort of categorized as 50s modernism, and his contemporaries included Harry Weiss and others. And we're going to talk with Bob Brugman, who's professor emeritus at University of Illinois Chicago in architectural history, a national figure, a prominent author, and recently wrote The Architecture of Harry Weiss, your last book, I believe. And Irene Falconer, who was the point person on getting 320 West Oakdale in the National Registry of Historic Places. 320 has 21 floors. The 21st floor is 2 penthouses. Generally, the floors have 3 apartments. Some of the floors are combined now, and so you have a maximum of 3 apartments on floors 4 through 20. My first guest this morning is Audrey Schwartz, who's the widow of Milton Schwartz, the architect and the builder of 320 Oakdale. Milton was only 29 years old at the time he did this wonderful building, and that's pretty remarkable. And I'm going to ask Audrey, you know, at the beginning when Milton was visualizing the building, what were his thoughts? How did he get this magnificent structure?
Actually, he was working on it on our honeymoon in Honolulu, and he thought of environment, and he also thought of coordinating the overhangs, which are basically used to let the sun in the wintertime for the apartments and to keep it out in the summertime, which, you know, makes the apartments cooler.
And you happen to live in the penthouse, which is absolutely gorgeous.
I thank you.
The 21st floor has 2 penthouses.
Initially, it was a co-op because at the time they did not have anything other than rental or co-op.
Right.
And the building itself, in order to call attention to it, all the apartments were lit up with electric lights, so it shone very brightly on the outer drive.
And Milton also put heated underground below the parking, which
Right.
was extremely clever at the time. And the Chicago Tribune just went wow over the building when it was lit up at night, and passersby on Lakeshore Drive actually stopped to have a look. My next guest this morning is Irene Falconer, and Irene also lives in the building and was the point person on the rather laborious task of getting 320 West Oakdale on the National Registry of Historic Places. And we can turn around and look at this poster, which one of our architect residents made, also on the committee. And maybe you can just say a few words about this. This is our beautiful building here. These are some of the other Chicago historic places.
These are the earlier properties which have been added by the Secretary of Interior to the National Register of Historic Places. And when you reach the Depression, the Great Depression, there's a dramatic fall off in construction in this city and actually across the U.S. So from about 1929 to 1932, virtually nothing is built until close to the end of the 1940s. This building was constructed between 1952 and 54, and one of the things that's distinguishing on its behalf being entered onto the National Register of Historic Places is that our 2 predecessors were buildings by Mies van der Rohe, and so it is a great honor to be the 3rd building after the post-war era to enter the register and to have it be by architect Milton Schwartz.
This is my 3rd guest of the morning, and his name is Bob Brugman. He's my next door neighbor. He's also a national figure in architectural history. And we're going to talk about Milton Schwartz. We're going to talk about 50s modernism, where Bob is an expert. First, let me say that Milton built 1555 Dearborn, the Constellation. He built the Executive House Hotel at Wacker in Michigan. He built the Statesman Building at 56 at Bryn Mawr and Lakeshore Drive. He renovated the Dunes Hotel, among the other things that he's done. He's won many awards, and we'll turn now to Bob to talk about the 50s architecture.
I think for many years, the thinking has been among architectural historians and others that the gold standard for 1950s modernism was the kind of work that Mies van der Rohe did, for example, at 860, 880 Lakeshore Drive. I think in the last 10 or 15 years, though, there's become a growing recognition that there's another strain of modernism. It's the modernism that Milton Schwartz embodied and that you see in other architects like Harry Weiss and others in Chicago. And I think this is a warmer, more humane kind of architecture. And this building exemplifies that. This is not a puritanical grid, absolutely relentless grid. It's a building that has a lot of more exuberant American architectural style to it than some of the more stringent European modernism that was in most of the history books up until now. And I think that's the reason, that's what attracts so many architects, many historians, so many of whom live in the building, that it's a really wonderful example of what happened in the 1950s when you took that modernist legacy and you tried to make of it something that was more colorful, more livable.
I want to thank my three fellow owners and experts on the building this morning, Audrey Schwartz, Irene Faulkner, and Bob Brugman. And I would like to show you the original brochure for the building, which Audrey was kind enough to show me. And this is really nice and goes back almost 60 years. And these pictures show the building when it was first completed. And the picture on the left shows Commonwealth South with Lincoln Park on the left. So Lincoln Park was annexed to build St. Joe's Hospital. When I moved here in 1997, I believe it was, I walked into the apartment and I said, my God, I've never seen so much light, and it was all over. My search was ended. I bought immediately. And a lot of people in the building who have bought had that same reaction, and they've stayed here a long, long time. So it's difficult to buy here, but it can be done. So contact me if you would for any interest in the building and in apartments that might be listed or coming up. Thank you so much for watching.